Kingdom Hearts, a video game series started by Tetsuya Nomura in 2002, has long since been a series with many colorful characters, a rich overarching storyline, and many twists and turns that feel utterly entrapping to many gamers who have experienced the series thus far from beginning to end. Starting with the original, Kingdom Hearts has been about a young boy named Sora, who is thrust into an incredible journey taking him through the worlds of Disney as he searches for his long-lost friends when his world is overtaken by shadowy beings known as the Heartless, putting him into conflict with a man only known as Xehanort, who desires to rewrite the worlds in his own image. Over time, Sora meets several familiar faces including Snow White, Aurora, Cinderella, Alice, Belle, and Jasmine, several of Disney's well-known princesses, each of whom play a very interesting role in the series. These women, as well as the series' original character and one of Sora's lost friends, Kairi, are known as the Princesses of Heart, 7 beings of pure light whose hearts are bereft of any darkness. As a result, they are said to open up a door to incredible power should all 7 hearts be collected by an individual, as well as combine into a powerful weapon to open said door. But where did such beings come from? According to series lore,
in ancient times, people believed that light was a gift from an unseen land by the name of Kingdom Hearts. But Kingdom Hearts was safeguarded by its counterpart, the Keyblade.
Eventually, a man only known as the Master of Masters was able to craft weapons similar to the legendary sword known as the Keyblade. The Master of Masters eventually took on 6 apprentices: Ira, Aced, Gula, Envy, Ava, and Lushu. With the exception of Lushu, the apprentices eventually started unions comprised of up-and-coming Keyblade wielders with the goal of protecting the light. However, due to the machinations of the Master of Masters, the 5 union leaders began competing for the light due to the revelation that there was a supposed traitor among them, culminating into Ava attacking Lushu, starting what became known as the Keyblade War.
The violent clash shattered the Keyblade into 20 pieces, 7 of light and 13 of darkness. And the only real Kingdom Hearts was swallowed by the darkness, never to surface again.
Generations later, a Keyblade wielder, Xehanort, gained an interest in the Keyblade War as well as the Chi Blade. Obsessed with it, he devoted his life to the mysteries behind the ancient event, in hopes of discovering what lay beyond the Keyblade War. By this time, he had become old and unlikely to fulfill his desire, or see it come to fruition should the war be restarted. Therefore, he acquired and trained a young boy known as Ventus, with the goal of possessing him and obtaining the Chi Blade. However, Ventus proved to be a poor candidate, resulting in Xehanort forcefully ripping Ventus's own darkness from him and turning him into a Prince of Heart, a being with characteristics similar to that of the 7 princesses. The darkness in turn became Vanitas, a being of pure darkness. In time, Xehanort hoped that Ventus and Vanitas would come into conflict, resulting in the forging of the Chi Blade, which needed at the very least 1 pure light and 1 pure darkness of equal strength to merge in order to be forged. However, Ventus was far too weak from the trial, and Xehanort left him in the care of Ericus, his old classmate, in hopes that Ventus would come to match his counterpart in strength, coming across Terra, one of Ericus's students, who Xehanort deemed worthy of becoming his vessel. Xehanort's plan did indeed come to pass, with Ventus, despite being unwilling to fight, was defeated and forcefully merged with Vanitas, recreating the Chi Blade. However, between the efforts of Ventus and his friend Aqua, Vanitas was struck down and the Chi Blade lost once again, but Xehanort was able to possess Terra during the conflict, thus partially fulfilling his goal, and over the course of the next decade, Xehanort will continue his research into Kingdom Hearts. Sora, during his adventures, came into conflict with Xehanort and several of his lieutenants, but each and every time managed to put a stop to Xehanort's plans, which involved capturing the 7 Princesses of Heart to use as the 7 pieces of light needed to forge the Chi Blade properly. As for the 13 darknesses, Xehanort hoped to use empty vessels, each carrying a fragment of his own heart, as the necessary 13 darknesses needed to go along with the 7 lights. Due to this, Sora and his friends were required to gather a group of 7 Keyblade wielders to combat Xehanort's 13 and defeat him before he could achieve his plans. Unfortunately, as Xehanort intended, the clash between the 20 combatants brought forth the Chi Blade, and with it, Xehanort had the power to rewrite the universe. Before he could do so, Sora was able to defeat him, ending the threat for good. However, this is not the end, as Sora will eventually come cross paths with the Master of Masters and his 6 apprentices, possibly recreating the Chi Blade once again. The Chi Blade is a fascinating subject within the Kingdom Hearts universe, specifically the requirements to forge it. 20 pieces, 7 of light and 13 of darkness. What is interesting to note is that the 7 lights were established in the first game of the series, with the Chi Blade being introduced in the prequel Birth by Sleep, and the prerequisites for the Chi Blade's creation not being properly revealed until Dream Drop Distance. Due to this plot point, it is revealed that the 7 lights of the Chi Blade would eventually become 7 maidens of pure light, with the power passing on to new individuals over time, with 10 known maidens being imparted the power: Snow White, Aurora, Cinderella, Alice, Belle, Jasmine, and Kairi. With the exception of Kairi, it is believed that by the time of the Chi Blade's recreation by Xehanort, the power had passed on to new maidens, including Rapunzel, Anna, and Elsa. However, at this time, it isn't known what became of the Darknesses proper, aside from Xehanort's group that comprised of replacements needed to forge the Chi Blade, much like Sora's group replaced the necessary lights. One possible theory is that, much like how 6 of the 7 lights were Disney princesses, some of the 13 Darknesses could have become Disney villains, since there are characters that act as counterparts to the princesses, much how light and darkness are opposites themselves, but feed off each other in order to be born, creating a balance. With Disney's abundance of villains, it is possible that the power transferred between vessels over time, much like the princesses did. 2 notable Disney villains who are intertwined with the Kingdom Hearts lore are Maleficent, who has been a major recurring character in the series, known for being one of Disney's darkest villains. The second is Scar, the main antagonist of The Lion King. Despite only appearing in one game, he was shown to become consumed by the darkness. However, at this time, this theory does lose some plausibility due to the fact most Disney villains related to the Princess of Heart are dead or incapacitated by the end of their stories within the Kingdom Hearts series, including those of the original 7 and new 7 lights, with only 2 surviving villains being Maleficent herself and the Queen of Hearts, Alice's villain, and it is unlikely that any of the worlds related to the 7 Hearts, with the exception of Frozen, will be revisited due to the stories coming to their conclusion. This doesn't mean that future games won't follow this trend, since there are several unused Disney worlds that could introduce the Darknesses. On the other hand, should there be replacements needed for the Chi Blade once again, a second possible theory is that the Darknesses will be original characters. This would open the door for several new and interesting characters, but something that may surprise you is that Darknesses could potentially be characters we already know. As stated earlier, Sora will eventually come into conflict with the Master of Masters and his 6 apprentices, 7 Keyblade wielders who could be the light needed to recreate the Chi Blade once again. But who could the Darknesses be? The answer is Sora and his allies. Perhaps unknowingly, the Darknesses took refuge within heroes in order to stave away any potential conflict that could bring about the destruction of the world. The 7 lights became maidens, beings not likely to come into contact with each other or conflict with the 13 Darknesses unless brought together by a third party. The Darknesses in turn could have been hidden within good individuals who could use the power to protect the people, thus making it unlikely that the 7 and 13 would clash due to the conflict of interest. They would in turn eventually come to reside within Sora and his allies. What's interesting to note is that 2 protagonists, namely Terra and Riku, show a penchant for darkness in the series, always try to use it for good. Since the Master of Masters group is already comprised of 7 beings, it makes sense that should the Chi Blade be reforged again, that Sora's group be the 13, though presently they only have 9 possible candidates of the 13. Sora, Riku, Kairi, Terra, Aqua, Ventus, Roxas, Axel, and Xion. With the series introducing new characters from unreality, such as Yozora, it is possible that the Darknesses will be revealed within the next section of the Kingdom Hearts universe. However, only time will tell if the true Darknesses will be brought to light and the Chi Blade recreated for the climax of Sora's next adventure.